Now, in the previous video in this course, which I've linked here and below, I showed you how to use a Python script to create a single interface, a loopback interface on an iOS XE router using the REST API. I also showed you how to delete a single loopback interface on the router. In this video, we're going to take it a step further. We're going to use a loop to create a whole bunch of interfaces on the router and to delete a whole bunch of interfaces on the router. Now, as I've said, don't get stuck on the fact that we're using loopbacks here. We're only doing that because it's easy, but I want to start off slowly and through iteration. And over time, your scripts will get more and more complicated and you'll be able to do more and more tasks using automation. Don't lose sight of the fact that at the moment, you may be able to do some of this quicker using the CLI, but there's no ways that you manually would be able to configure 100 switches as quickly as a Python script that's been optimized. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. I'll show you how to use loops in Python to create a whole bunch of interfaces and delete them. So the create script is very similar. All this is the same, except here I've set an int number to 5. I could make this 50, and I'll show you that in a moment. But let's start with 5 interfaces. So I've put this information before my for loop. What I'm doing here is I'm saying for x in range int number. That's basically going to loop based on this integer number. So it'll create a whole range of interfaces based on what I set this to. And I'll demonstrate that in a moment. So it'll start at 0. First IP address will be 1.2.3.0. I'm setting x, which is an integer, to a string so that I can concatenate it with 123. So IP address is a variable which is equal to 123 plus the string x, which will be 0. The first time this loops. I'm going to print something so that we know what's going on, creating loopback with this IP address. We're going to send the payload to the router. This is the same as the previous example, except here I've said loopback 123. Previously it was loopback 1234. As you can see over here, this is what it looked like before. But now I'm saying plus. So this will be 0, then it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth, depending on what I've set this value to. It's a string value because I want to concatenate it. Notice what I've done here, very important. I'm using single inverted commas because this output is using double inverted commas. So here I've got single inverted commas so that Python knows that I now want to add a variable to my script. Single inverted commas, double inverted commas. This will basically end up being one long string of data. Everything else is the same, but here at IP address, I've done something very similar. So the first IP address will be 1230. The request is exactly the same. It's a post, and then I've got my status codes. So let's see what that does. So I've got to create one interface Python script at the moment. Let's create lots of interfaces. .py, and I'll paste the script in. Control X, yes, to save the script. So I've now got create lots of interfaces. Before I run that, let's see which interfaces exist on the router at the moment. So Python 3 get interfaces. I can only see physical interfaces on the router. So Python 3 create lots of interfaces.py. You can see it saying creating the first loopback. We get a status code of 201, second interface, third interface, fourth interface, and fifth interface. Notice it goes from 0 to 4. So I set this to 5. It's looping 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So it's created, according to this script, 5 interfaces on the router. So to verify that, let's look at Postman. So in Postman, click send to get refreshed information. There's our physical interfaces. Here are our loopback interfaces. I've created loopback 1230, 1231, 1232, 1233, 1234. 5 loopback addresses were created on the router. Now we could do that here as well by typing Python get interfaces, and we'll be able to see the interfaces on the router. As you can see, there is 1234, scrolling up 1233, 1232, 1231, and 1230. Okay, but let's try and create them again, and let's see the error codes that we get back. Notice we're getting error codes 409. Object already exists, so we can't create those interfaces because they're already created. So let's delete those interfaces using a script. So this is very similar to the previous delete script. We're importing requests. We've got our username and password. Payload is blank. Headers are set to this. Int is 5. We've got a loop for x in range 0 to 4. We are going to delete this interface. Notice at the end here, I've got int name per our previous script, but here it's loop 123 plus the string of x. We're getting our response. We're sending that to the router using delete, and then we're printing the status code and the response text. So I'll copy that script, clear the screen on the Ubuntu PC, and let's create a script called delete lots of interfaces.py, and I'll paste that in. Save the script, Python 3 delete lots of interfaces. Before I run that, in Postman once again, if I click send, I can see the loopback interfaces here. So my 5 loopback interfaces exist. Let's delete the interfaces. Notice status code is 204. I did a print telling us what's happening. Interfaces are deleted. Now it's complaining about the configuration database being locked. So let's do a send again. It might not have deleted those last few interfaces. You can see here these 2 interfaces have not been deleted. So let's run that again. So 404 on these first interfaces, which is correct because they were already deleted. So the first 3 are already deleted. Notice we are now getting 204 messages telling us that those last 2 interfaces are deleted. So that was a nice example of seeing the different error codes and knowing what to do because of those error codes. So just going back here again, we told that the configuration database is locked. So I was probably going too quick for it to sync the information. But when I ran the script again, we could see 404 on the first 3 interfaces because they were previously deleted. And here we've got 204 messages telling us that those interfaces were deleted. So back in Postman, click send. I can see that those interfaces have been removed. Okay, but let's create a whole bunch of interfaces. So I've got create lots of interfaces.py. So I'm going to edit that script. And let's make this 50 rather than 5. So we'll create a whole bunch of interfaces on the router. So Python 3, create lots of interfaces.py. It's creating the first loopback, creating the second loopback, third loopback, and that will just continue. In Postman, if I click send, I can see it's at that interface at the moment. Click send again. We're at this interface. Click send again. We're at this interface. So we can see the script busy creating the loopbacks on the router. And in Postman, I can verify that by doing a get. And notice we're at interface 12319. So it's created a loopback with this IP address. Click send again. We're at loopback 12321. So 12321 as the IP address on the router. And that'll just continue. I'll speed this up now because all it's going to do is keep looping and creating those loopback interfaces. So this is basically connecting to the router, creating a loopback, then it loops round, creates another loopback, loops round, creates another loopback, and just continues. Okay, so we're at 44 already. So click send. In Postman, we can see all the way at the bottom here, it's showing 46. Click send again. We're at 49. So as you can see there, the script has completed. It's created 50 interfaces. So go to the top here. It started at 1230 and went all the way down to 12349. And in Postman, we can see that those interfaces have been created. So that's an example of how to use a loop and a Python script to create a whole bunch of interfaces. Now, it's a lot of work initially to set this up, but all I had to do was change this from 5 to 50 to get it to create a whole bunch of interfaces. And I could do the same with the deletion. I can just change 5 to 50 to delete all those interfaces. So back in Python, let's edit the delete lots of interfaces script. And just to prove a point, let's just make this 25 for the moment. So we'll only delete the first 25 interfaces. So Python 3 delete lots of interfaces.py. So you can see it's deleting 1230, deleting 1231, and we're getting back the status code, which is correct, telling us that that interface has been deleted. In Postman, previously we had this loopback 1230. If I click send again now, you'll notice that that interface has gone. The first interface after gigabit 3 is 1239. Now it's still busy deleting interfaces. So if I click send again, this is happening in real time. First interface after gigabit 3 is loopback 1239. Now it's interesting that it's still showing that interface 1239 and 12310. Scrolling down, we see 12311, and then suddenly it jumps to loopback 12325. Going back to our Python script, did we get any errors? Yes, we did. Notice we were going so quickly that it couldn't keep up. So 1239 wasn't deleted, neither was 12310, neither was 12311. We can see the error code 409, and then we can see the error response text, but it did delete up to 12324. So if I click send again, we should have our physical interfaces, which we've got over there, and then we've got this loopback, 11, and then we've got 25 and the remaining interfaces. But what I'll do now is just delete them all. So let's set this to 50 and let's see what happens. That should now go through our script and try and delete them all. Ones that have already been deleted, notice get a status code of 404. Now I'm emphasizing the status codes. You must know these status codes, so make sure that you learn the status codes for the ENCOR exam. So as an example, 404 is different to 204. 204 meant it did what it was supposed to do. 404 means that it's an error. That resource doesn't exist. So again, for the exam, make sure that you learn your status codes. In the real world, you'll just learn this because you'll see them so often, or you can refer to a reference guide. 404 is one, once again, that most of us probably know. But you can see it's busy deleting all the interfaces on the router. Let's click send with our get. The last physical interface is gigabit 3. First loopback is 12342. Click send again. Now it's at 12349. Click send again. All the loopback interfaces are gone. We can prove that once again by running get interfaces from the router. And as you can see there, we only see our physical interfaces. Okay, so that was quite a long video. But hopefully at this point, you're happy with these HTTP verbs: get, post, delete. I've shown you how to do that using Postman, graphical user interface. And I've also shown you how to do that using a Python script or multiple Python scripts. So I've shown you how to delete one interface or a whole bunch of interfaces, how to create one interface or a whole bunch of interfaces, and how to do a get to see the information on a Cisco XR router. So in this example, once again, we were using a Cisco Always On sandbox. It's only one router, but I'll show you in other videos how to create stuff on multiple routers using CLI or using the REST API, etc. So hopefully, once again, you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please like it. Please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and clicking on the bell to get notifications. I'm David Bombal. Want to wish you all the very best.